you were alive.
Okay, can you all hear me this time? We're going to start over. I think we have solved our technical difficulties. Good, there is sound. Excellent. Later you'll have to tell me what. I'm thinking maybe a cat bit through something. Chuku kunduzong pogompo ye dorji sempa garab dorji dang. Shere senge bardu shin labde dedong mabzan tata tusum chi. Dzogchen jupe lama la solwa deb. Ergin pema june la solwa deb. Dorji chang chitilo narudang. Marpa mila gompo tatapa. Na pupadang palden drupa so. Kargyu lama namla solwa deb. Ochen lama namla solwa deb. Druchen lama namla solwa deb. Shakchen lama namla solwa deb. Nyendu da yongdrun lama namla solwa deb. Pa kondu shangdang yerme pa gun garab dorji jintrag pa jetidang nisume pa pa lamanam chetente and could you straighten the camera?
Okay.
How's a little more? Yes, there's good. Okay, this morning's teaching is on the 6 Paramitas. We have just been practicing the Paramita of Patience. A very important one. Understand that the word paramita means transcendent, gone beyond. So the idea with these is to practice them until the spontaneous arising of this is identical with your mind stream. As always, we begin with dana, generosity. This divides into 3 categories: generosity of the body, generosity of the speech, and generosity of the mind. And each of these 3 divides into 3: outer, inner, and secret. So let's look first at generosity of the body. On an outer level, it's very simple. Give stuff away. Give away money, that's easy. Give away stuff, a little bit more effort. Give away time, even more effort. But this is all outer generosity of the body. It's things you do with your hands, with your body. You clean out your closet and give the stuff that you no longer use away. You clean out your cupboards and give that food that you are unlikely to eat to someone who might be likely to eat it if it is still good within its dates. You give away books, things. You give your time by volunteering. This is all outer generosity of the body. inner generosity of the body is to give yourself time, gifts, to care for yourself well, to give yourself those things that you need. Secret generosity of the body is to give practices such as Tsa-lung practices for the sake of all beings, to do them with your time, with your body, to the benefit of all life. Outer, with your hands. Inner, to yourself. Don't deny yourself what you need. Don't give away your groceries if you cannot get more. Do what you can, not what you can't. Make sure that you care properly for yourself, that you give your body nutritious food, enough sleep, a shower. Adornments, if you're one who cares about adornments. Being generous to yourself and others. You don't give yourself more than you give others. But you are kind and generous with yourself as well as with others. Generosity of speech on an outer level is to say kind words to others. Generosity of speech on an inner level is to say kind words to yourself and to refrain from saying mean things to yourself. So, I'm an idiot. Don't do that. You're saying mean things to yourself. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. That is not generosity, inner generosity of speech. Secret generosity of speech is mantra and monman. Using your speech chakra, the chakra of intent, for practices for the sake of all beings. Generosity of mind is an attitude. Outer generosity of mind is to see the best in those around you and wish them well. Inner generosity of mind is without pride, but with kindness, to see the best of yourself and wish yourself well. Secret generosity of mind is to meditate. This is simple but incredibly profound practice of generosity, said in a very simple but rememberable way by categorizing. Remember, we're working with an oral lineage, so things are set up so that they can be remembered. Do you have questions on generosity?
We don't have questions quite yet.
We'll see if anyone comes up with them. This is the perhaps easiest but most important paramita. And it must be transcended, which means the effort of doing it becomes effortless. When you no longer hold your possessions dear, and more important than someone else's, it is as easy to give things away as it is for me to give a glass of water from my left hand to my right hand. There was no conflict in that. Giving away stuff, giving away words, giving away feelings has to become just that easy. In transcending the paramita of generosity, the separations, the self-grasping me first, what I think of as the crab pot protocol. You know how you keep your crabs in a bucket so that they don't get away? You put a bunch of them in there. Every time one of them gets up to the rim, the others pull it down so they can stand on it to get to the rim. And so the crabs never escape from the bucket. They don't let each other. We do that. Your work for the environment is part of generosity. Recycling takes time. You're offering your time to the world by doing this small deed. Cutting down your carbon footprint. This is generosity to the world. Imagined offerings to archetypes. When I do a Tara ceremony and I work through the sadhana, I imagine infinite offering goddesses going out and making infinite offerings. This is done in the mind. This is a generosity of mind. When I add in the mudras, agam, agam, padam, pupe, dupe, aloke, gande, nude, shepta. I am making offerings with body, speech, and mind. Secret offerings, because it's part of ceremony, part of sadhana. We getting questions yet, or did this get clear?
Yes, we have questions.
Let's have a few.
Okay, let me get my key on. All right. What if we always treat others better than ourselves, giving away what may be needed for us and leaving us depleted eventually?
Then you are not practicing inner generosity. You are not practicing generosity of body on an inner level. You're not doing it right.
Sometimes I intend to donate or volunteer, but when the time comes, I get scared. How do I overcome this?
What are you afraid of? Wait for an answer to come back on that, because that would make a difference in how I would answer that. Some people are just shy and afraid to go out among others, and that would be one solution. Whereas some people are, well, I don't know. It will depend on where you think you're frightened.
How does the 4 immeasurable thoughts factor into the paramitas?
Those would go in the paramita of wisdom, if what you're talking about is what I think you are. We'll get there.
Does the paramita of generosity mean to yield to unpleasant competitors or those who are territorial at the workplace?
Not necessarily. That would be more likely in the paramita of patience. However, when you encounter those who are grasping, to not set your own limits is lack of inner generosity with self. To set your limits beyond what is needed is lack of generosity with others. When you enter into politics of any kind, it is a competitive endeavor. And we all have that within us. When I was living in the monastery, I got so tired of monastic politics. I decided that I would go make retreat alone in the forest in a shack. So I did that for a few months. There was a tribe of monkeys in which I was in the territory of that would come past my retreat shack, once a day on their way up and down the mountain. And after a couple of months, I found myself in a standoff with the chief bull monkey. I didn't even want all his female monkeys. I don't know why I was doing that. Oh yeah, I do. It wasn't the monastery politics that were the problem. It was what was inside me. The competitiveness with whatever guy thinks he's on top of the heap that seems to instinctively arise from me when I get challenged by males. Oops. Each political situation, and yes, if you work in an office or in any group of people, you're going to encounter that. Give what you can. Speak kindly without lying. There's a fine line here in giving what you can without giving what you can't. If you roll on your back and show your throat to every dominant around, you won't get anything else done, first of all. So you really have to play a fine line there with being generous to those who are grasping as much as you can, without giving them what you can't. And that might be something as subtle as authority over you. I can't give you a blow-by-blow in every situation how to deal with this. But when you encounter such a one, don't internalize their belief that they should have governance over you. Nor do you need to internalize the belief that you should have governance over them. You will need to practice patience with them, but not to the point of harm. Do not abandon common sense. This is the best answer I can give you to that, because every situation is different. However, please examine yourself and see how much of the competition going on there is yours. Like me and the monkeys. It wasn't outside of me, all that office politics or Gompa politics. Not in the least. Not if I was still doing it with monkeys. Next question.
The person with fears earlier says here, I think I'm getting frightened of doing something unwanted or getting in the way when she talks about donating or volunteering. Some anxiety about the interaction as well.
Well, it is important if you're going to donate or volunteer that you do what is wanted or probably wanted. And the best way to find out is to ask and then believe the answer. Most people, if you give them stuff, with the exception sometimes of zucchini in the height of summer, are very pleased to receive it. And will pass it on to their friends. Speaking of which, anybody in the Bay Area want a little rhubarb? I have excess. It's delicious with strawberries. And you can actually make savory dishes with it as well. Send me an email. I have rhubarb the way some people have zucchinis at this moment. Still, I was very pleased to receive all that rhubarb. And I like zucchini. So, when someone gives you excess, share it with everybody else. Give it away. When you are afraid to give, somewhere you are not being quite generous with yourself here. Are you also afraid to give yourself things because you think to yourself, oh, I don't really need that? Oh, I don't maybe actually need that thing. I'm trying to understand. It seems to be a bit of self-focused embarrassment level things. So, in generosity of mind, part of that is to take your attention off yourself. And when you're going to give time or donate things, instead of focusing on the you that's doing it, focus your attention on the recipient, the organization. Your fear, as I understand it, seems to come from a worry about how they will perceive you, rather than how you will benefit them. And generosity of mind is outer focusing the mind, not being continuously focused on you and what everybody thinks of you, but focusing instead on how they actually feel, not about you, about themselves. And with your speech and your actions, making that a more relaxed and happier feeling, not how they feel about you. So shift your focus when you're going to be doing something like this from you, the doer, to the doing and the recipient of the doing, from the subject, I'm going to do this, to the object, this is what is now going to be done. Anything else on this particular paramita?
Yes. One question, well, there's two. Let me find it. Here we go. How do you overcome the feeling of lack caused when others take things from you?
By giving more away. Lack. The fear of lack. The feeling of lack when something has been lost, whether someone took it or you just can't remember where you put it. That feeling has a tendency to grow and lead to the sensation of poverty, of not enough. And when that happens, there is no amount of stuff that will fill it. So, what do you not have enough of? Money. A lot of people experience that. Start giving your money away. This will cause you to feel that you have enough money. No more coffee right now. Start giving objects away. This will cause you to feel that you have enough objects. Start giving time away. This will allow you to feel that you have enough time. If someone has taken something from you, say you got mugged, somebody took some money from you, offer it to them. In your mind, it will help you recover from the feeling of lack of that money. If you continually think of it, oh, they took that, now I don't have it, you're going to feel lack. If you instead think that was extra money, okay, I can afford to offer that to them, I have other money, you're not going to feel lack. You see, you do have a choice what to think. To make that choice, you need to recreate new habit patterns of thought. Generosity of mind is creating habit patterns of thought. It is done through generosity of speech, that little voice that talks to you all the time. Change what it says. It won't work the first time. You have to repeat it like practice. So every time that little voice says, I don't have enough money, consciously say, I do have enough money and I can give this quarter away. I'm going to put this quarter in a bowl by the door and put it in my pocket when I go out, in a particular pocket as giveaway money. And whenever I see a charity thing or somebody collecting, I'm going to put it in there. And then do that. And do it again and again. You're not forcing yourself to pay a toll. You're changing what you think of what you have. There is no reality that you experience other than the one you believe in by your habit patterns. You who are experiencing a precious human rebirth have the power and the ability to change that. Work with karma. Work with the 6 Paramitas. Practice them for the sake of all living beings, and you will change the patterns of how you perceive your life. Oh, and don't read the news too much. Those are hard ones to work with. Anything else?
Yes. I have trouble giving away things that I don't use but have nostalgic memories attached. What can I do?
One or two things like that, no harm. Your mother's necklace. Your other things that have been given to you by people that are gone. I experience that sometimes. But look for good homes for many of these. Places where they will be used. For example, when you die, what do you want to happen to all your stuff? Do you really want those things of memories when you're dead to end up in the second-hand shop without respect? Better to find them a good home now. Clean out your jewelry box. Keep a few things that are sentimental. But perhaps not all of them. Do it slowly. Do it gently. Don't push yourself beyond what you can do, or you'll have a flashback of feeling terrible that you did that, and that completely deletes the karmic result. Well, not completely, but to a very great extent. So you don't want to push yourself into a flashback. You want to move gently. Be careful of the tendency to become a hoarder. We all have that in us. That same instinct that makes one collect coins, stamps, elephants, frogs, whatever. Cats. Some people collect cats. It can get out of hand. I have only 2, and I'm always covered with cat hair. Don't let it go there. That way lies Preta realm. Work with changing it. Start at the easy end. Pick something you own of sentimental value that you are having trouble getting rid of, but not the most important thing. And give it to someone who will use it, who you care about. And then spend some time rejoicing in their happiness to receive this thing that they will use. Next question.
I like to give myself to others, but I can't help feeling victimized and unfairly treated when there is no reciprocity. A related question talked about dealing with narcissists, those people who can take and there's no end to what they can take.
The practice of generosity is not the same as the inability to set limits. The practice of generosity is not the same as the inability to set limits. Have you ever heard the expression, pay it forward? Do not expect the results of your generosity to come back from the object of your generosity. Let them circle like the can of grass jelly. Have I told you of the can of grass jelly? I tend to give things away a lot. So as it happened, sometime when I was playing in a Chinese grocery store, I bought a can of grass jelly because it was the oddest thing. I could not, all it had in a picture was a bowl with squares of grass jelly, and it didn't say how you cook it, what you do with it. So it was a curiosity. It sat on my counter for a while, and then it went in a cupboard, and then it went in the back of a cupboard. Finally, it was time to clean out the cupboard and give the food I wasn't going to eat away, and I wasn't going to eat the grass jelly because I couldn't figure out what the heck to do, and I just couldn't see just eating it with a knife and fork in a bowl or a spoon. It didn't look very good. So I gave the interesting and unique can of grass jelly to a foodie I knew, who apparently had the same problems with it I did. And that grass jelly circled through many people until someone who was a virtual stranger to me gave me a gift of the same can of grass jelly. That's how it's supposed to come back. After circling the world, not from the person you do it for. So yes, you need to set limits. Some people will take all you've got and then yell at you for not having enough. Yeah, they do that. Set limits with those. But that's not a reason not to offer yourself to people when you have enough and can, your time, your stuff. But it isn't supposed to come back from the one you gave it to. They were in need. It comes back from somewhere else. When I made all the clay satsas of Rinpoche's bones, and am currently in the process of giving them away to those who ask, nothing's going to come back to me from doing that from the people I give them to. But somewhere in the universe, long ago, someone made satsas from my teacher's ashes and gave some to my teacher who gave one to me. I've already been paid back. Long before I ever did this and gave it out. You can see a difference in color on them. This one's old, this one's fairly new, but it's darkening slowly. I wear them over my heart, my teacher and his teacher before him. Those of you who knew Wangdo Rinpoche, or have met him in a dream and venerate him, send me an email. Actually, send the email to wangdorrinpochesatsas@gmail.com.
At Lama Wangdor Satsas, plural, I believe, at Gmail.
Lama
I'll
Wangdor
post it into the
Satsas. Yeah,
comments.
check it for what it really is in my email, if you can.
Yes.
Under Yvonne. You just put Yvonne and it'll come.
Mm-hmm.
You can send an email there, and one will be sent to you. It is hoped that you will make an offering to that person who's doing the sending to cover the postage of someone else's. not just yours. Pay it forward. Sometimes you get the result before you've created the cause, like me receiving many, many years ago my teacher's teacher's satsas. And so much later in time, when my own teacher passed away, and I asked after the cremation for his bones that were left, and they were given to me, and I ground them up and mixed them with clay, and my cousin and I spent weeks making these, stamping the ends. This one has a little double dorji on the end, forming them from the clay, firing them. Nothing comes back to us from that effort. But everything comes back somewhere else. So there's no point in resenting the actual individual that you did something for. They're not supposed to return it to you. It's supposed to come around from somewhere else, like the grass jelly. There's your visualization. Any more questions?
Not on this topic.
Okay, let's look at transcending morality. Bit of a sticky wicket. There is morality of the body, morality of the speech, morality of the mind. And of the body, there is outer, inner, and secret. Of the speech, there is outer, inner, and secret. Of the mind, there is outer, inner, and secret. Of the body, avoid digpa. Practice gewa with your body. This is avoiding actions which will cause harm and sadness. This is doing actions which will cause relaxation and happiness. This is a matter of de-stressing the universe by performing gewa and avoiding digpa. Oh, there are many little rules, but they seem, many of them, to be a bit cultural. It's digpa to point your feet at things. It's digpa to step over someone's seat. Feet are bad. Up and down are real. Not. Those are cultural. It is digpa in some cultures to put a tonka in the bathroom. If you'd ever seen an Indian bathroom, you would understand why you would not put a tonka in there. You don't want to go in there yourself, really. Gack. Western bathrooms are actually much better, usually, unless you're a bad housekeeper like me. And then it is sometimes better and sometimes maybe not as much better. Each action should be examined before you undertake it, as to whether it is digpa or gewa, as should words before you say them. Outer digpa of the body. Deeds done with the body. Inner digpa of the body. deeds done in imagination, secret digpa of the body, deeds based on the belief that you are real. Outer digpa of the speech, saying mean things or lying. Inner digpa of the speech, that little voice saying mean things. Judging, digpa of the mind, wishing harm. That's outer. Inner digpa of the mind, believing thoughts. Secret digpa of the mind, not seeing the nature of mind. Do you see at the end each of these paramitas transcends itself? Grasping a reality, subscribing to a reality, believing what you think is real. All of these cause constriction rather than openness. To practice gewa, open-hearted, great-heartedness, in a relaxed manner, without self-sabotage or hope or fear of the result. This is morality. And to do it with your deeds, and do it with your words, and do it with your heart. In the transcendence of generosity. No division between self and other. In the transcendence of morality, no doer separate from that which is done. In the transcendence of patience, beyond time. In the transcendence of perseverance, where the path naturally occurs without a doing or a doer. Do you see where this all goes through its practice to its end? Don't jump to the end. Know that there is the transcendence. Don't get caught where you can't progress to there. But start at the beginning. Clean out your closet, give away stuff. Refrain from stealing, killing, taking what is not given, forcing someone, maneuvering someone into doing what they don't want to do. Do you understand the essence of this? Please ask questions when they arise. When I say avoid lying, common sense, please. If your wife says to you, "Do I look fat?" there is only one right answer, whether it's true or not. There are details in the speech of this, in not lying, such as refrain from forcing someone to hear what they don't want to hear. It'll just tighten them up. No proselytizing. No arguing with the people who do not agree with you. Let them be. Demonstrate your morality rather than talk about it. Do we have questions on morality?
We do.
Let me have a few.
Are overeating and non-exercising included in digpa of the body?
Not so much, although they can lead to digpa. Thinking you are bad, telling yourself you are terrible for not exercising and overeating and getting fat. That's digpa. Saying the same thing to someone else is also digpa. If you are overeating in a famine when there's not enough to go around and you are hoarding food to do it, that's digpa. If you are not exercising, I wouldn't call that digpa. Once we get into the tantric precepts, that becomes more a factor. But here, no, it's just a bit of sloth. Happens. Next.
When it comes to avoiding killing things, how to deal with an infestation of mice, ants, or other pests? Say if they're eating and spoiling food.
Live traps if you possibly can. Sometimes, for example, termites. Well, you could just feed them the house and move on. And then the next person there would kill them. What about bacteria? Antibiotics for an infection. Sometimes you must kill. Try as hard as you possibly can to avoid doing so. But if you must give your child antibiotics for an ear infection, you're going to have to do that. Say manis. Recognize that you are performing a digpa. Don't deny it to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. But if you, in your common sense, have determined that this has been necessary for the well-being of the world, in the big picture, then simply do some Vajrasattva and accept that you have created Digpa by doing so. Don't hide it from yourself. Just try to create enough Gewa to overcome it. Next.
An interesting tech question is BitTorrenting Digpa. BitTorrenting is when you are, say, downloading something like a movie or film for free using a website or other that is kind of a pirate haven, so to speak.
Yeah, it is. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to build that. Of course, the pirates went to a lot of trouble to steal it, too. Do not, generosity back here, do not expect perfection. Give yourself permission to be imperfect in morality. But try to make sure at the end of every day you have created more Gewa than Digpa by a fairly large margin.
Does the Paramita of morality include societal things, like fair dealing or not breaking contracts, for example?
It includes not harming other beings. When you break a contract, generally you are causing harm to those with whom you are contracted. Such as, you're a plumber and you have been paid X amount to fix something and you don't show up because you're hungover. Yeah, you're causing harm to the person who's, whatever that is still broken. You at least owe them an apology and to try to make it good. Otherwise, yeah, it's Digpa. In society is interactive. Is it Digpa for a woman to go about without her shirt on? No. That's just cultural. Some cultures it's okay, some cultures it's not. Tibetan, you can have your shirt off but don't show your legs. It varies. So some things that are thought of in the culture you were raised in as Digpa are not necessarily Digpa. They're sins or whatever that religion thought was a bad idea. However, freaking people out by going about without your shirt on, that could be Digpa, not because you don't have your shirt on, but because you've gone to a place where people are going to freak out about that and be stressed. And stressing other people is Digpa. Next question.
Let me see if we have one. Not on this topic. There's more generic.
Okay. Give me a couple generics that are not specifically on a different one.
Okay. Is taking responsibility for your own feelings beneficial? What paramita does this relate to?
I don't even quite know what that means to you. What is taking responsibility for your own feelings? That's a Western paradigm, and I'd like a definition or a little bit more explanation of it coming back. Another generic?
What mantra and practice is best for artists?
The Tara, which is a derivative of Sarasvati. And I'd have to look up which of the 21 that is. I believe she's gold in color. I don't have that to hand. I'd have to look it up. Or Sarasvati, if you happen to have had that long. It does exist in the Tibetan lexicon. Otherwise, much will depend on your art. Sculptor, painting, music, silversmith. But Saraswati is pretty much across the board for that. Next.
What finally did happen with the can of grass jelly?
Oh, I gave it away again. It hasn't returned yet. It'll be back. Next life, if not this one.
The issue of not freaking people out, it seems almost as though no matter what you do or where you go, there is someone who will freak out about what you're doing.
Yes, but what you want to do is not do things to freak them out. My granddaughter happens to like freaking out grown-ups, which is Digpa, and which will not serve her well, but she's a teenager and she's going to have to discover that on her own, in spite of the fact that it has already made problems for her. She thinks it's funny. She wrote some kind of essay to freak out a teacher so full of doom and gloom or something else that they all made her talk to the counselor, and she hates that. Counselor just pretty much figured out, no, she was just wanking people around and not suicidal. Yeah, it was a joke. Do you see what I mean? I'm giving it as an example of someone who is freaking people out on purpose. Well, it's kind of normal for teenagers to try that at a certain stage. But you all should be past that. And yes, people will freak out. They'll freak out on your shoes. They'll freak out because you're wearing the wrong color or yada, yada, yada. That you can't do anything about. But you cannot do it intentionally.
Is there anything like righteous or justified anger when there is injustice?
It's not anger. It's a fierceness. It doesn't feel the same as anger. It is a fierceness containing a precision that is complete, not without love, not without great-hearted open-heartedness, and highly competent. But it is not the same as the poison of anger. It doesn't feel anything like that. So no, not righteous anger. Don't go there. Protective fierceness, I'm going to call it. Righteous anger is egocentric. Consider the protective fierceness of a mother. When one of her kids picks up a dangerous object like a frying pan and attempts to hit the other one over the head, she doesn't stop loving either one, but she moves quickly and fiercely to remove the frying pan from the hands of the one who was about to clobber his sister, and clearly makes a point to the child that that is not to be done. But it's not anger, or it shouldn't be. And anger is not effective. But it's fierce. I don't know if you've all felt that. Look for it. It's part of the Bodhisattva path. But it's not righteous. That's Christian. And it's not anger or wrath. Those are also Christian. Call it fierce protectiveness of the Bodhisattva. Next.
Anger has to be directed at something, as all things are provisional. There's no one to be angry and nothing to be angry at, right?
Well, yes, that's a nice intellectualization. Do you really feel that? Because you need to come to really feel that. How will you feel that? How will you come to feel that? By working with emotions. Working with the 5 poisons in such a way that over time they release themselves into the 5 wisdoms. But that teaching takes several days, has been given, and will be given again as a retreat for those of you interested. Here, in morality, do not act out of anger. Apply patience as an antidote. You may need to act fiercely at times, but you don't need to get all tangled up in being angry. They're not the same thing.
Video games generally have imaginary violence, death, destruction, etc. What consequences of karma do you think are generated by playing them?
Good question. I'm sure I'm going to find out eventually. Since there is no object, it will not be a complete karma. Motivation, subject, deed, and object are required for a complete karma. In there, you're generally not you, although you do have a subject. I would, prior to playing these violent video games, using manlam, say to myself, may this game be relaxing to me in such a way that it furthers my practice for the sake of all life. And then in full awareness that no one was being harmed by my shooting at binary code, I'd go ahead and have some fun. Do it that way. You have the power to change things and change your motivation using the power of speech. So do that. Next question.
Just a quick comment. I thought I'd pass this one along. Someone over on YouTube suggesting that for pests, there's a practice called mountain purification. Are you familiar with this practice?
It's a song, an incense practice. And it's generally for off-plane pests, the one I'm familiar with. There may be another one by a similar name that I'm not familiar with.
Maybe. That's all that's mentioned here, and says it's good for rodents.
Whoever knows of that practice, would you email me the details? I'm curious. The only one I recognize as mountain purification as being somewhat similar to its name in Tibetan is a long song practice, working with certain incenses and off-plane pests. I've never actually tried it on rodents. When I'm troubled by rodents, I just pack up the food better and try and figure out where they're coming in and block it. I have some live traps in the basement. They're not actually baited at the moment because I think we got rid of whatever was in there by simply not having food for it to eat. That was a big job.
Yes, it was. Well, Pax liked whatever it was for a while. He kept wanting to play with it.
Yes.
He was very annoyed about that. Anyway, next question. I have a problem with swearing. My language is colorful but not hateful. A person where I live cannot stand me for this. I try to keep it clean, have apologized profusely, but it's all fallen flat. How to move forward when you've tried to make peace and it's been rejected?
Leave them alone. Don't pursue them. Some people will not be able to accept you for whatever reason. Somewhere that becomes something you can't fix for them, and maybe that's what you meant by, wasn't there a comment back there earlier about taking responsibility for your own feelings?
Yes.
So at some point you're going to have to let them, I think that's what this means, take responsibility for their feelings. Because you can't fix it and you can't change it.
As a child, I released a small lizard put in a shoebox by a classmate. Is it right to believe the Gewa of liberating a helpless being outweighed by the Digpa of stealing it from my classmate?
Yes, it did. If you did this in the motivation to help the lizard, and your deed was to give freedom, yeah, I would say that would outweigh. What you actually did is unraveled and avoided your classmate performing a digpa of killing the lizard by not knowing how to care for it. So yeah, that Gewa would have overcome digpa.
I personally have a related question. In
Yes.
the news, there have been events where, say, people belonging to animal liberation organizations go onto farms or even onto homes to take animals away. And in one recent controversial occurrence, they took a dog away but ended up euthanizing it. Can you comment a bit about the karma of this, where I guess the original motivation was to help the animals, but somehow it's been twisted?
Ignorance and confusion. Why? I mean, I'd have to know more details about the dog. I know that the Tibetans often liberate animals, sometimes due to lack of knowledge of the animals in very harmful ways. With the best of motivation, they create harm. That's still digpa. Not as bad as if it was done with bad motivation, but there is a story. Tibet is a landlocked country. They do not have a different word for ocean and lake. Some Tibetans on pilgrimage to Hong Kong saw many frogs being sold for food alive in the market and purchased them. Frogs live in water. So wanting to rescue these frogs, they took them out into the ocean on a boat and turned them loose. Frogs don't go in salt water. Of course, the frogs eventually drowned, were killed by the people trying to save them. So if you wish to liberate an animal, please pay environmental attention and liberate the animal where it belongs and can live, and where it will not muck up the ecology. So if you're going to buy something to turn loose, pick the right thing. When we've done animal release, we've often gone for local crickets, which are bought to and bred to feed reptiles. And in the hot summer, turn them loose locally in places where crickets are common. Of that kind of cricket. This is important. There have been live releases that have been really dysfunctional, like chickens. Chickens can't live in the wild anymore, not bred chickens. Releasing them in the countryside is not going to help. It'll make the foxes happy. Seriously. Pay attention to your deeds. Do not create bigger problems trying to, say, offer life as a generosity, which is offering time. In such a way that harm is created. If there is no predator for something which breeds rapidly, a problem will arise. So pay attention to the environment, and to it being an environment whatever your live releasing can survive in, and it being ecologically where it belongs. No Asian bullfrogs in America, please. They're different.
How do you balance a highly stressful and effortful work life with Dzogchen? My boss highly values work ethic and high effort over and against everything else.
Are you sure that's the job you want to keep? Because it sounds difficult to balance. However, stress, your stress is inside you. At one point in my many careers in life, I was a paramedic in a large city. This might be considered a stressful career. You're driving code 3, you're trying to get through traffic. And this is before our cell phones told us the route, so you have to have the maps memorized. Mustn't forget. And then you come there and somebody's bleeding out or having a heart attack, and you have to save them. That could be very stressful, or not, depending on how you feel about it. Your job certainly has challenges. are stressing about them rather than relaxing about them. And that will actually slow down and diminish the amount of work you can accomplish. Pick a day when you have felt together and relaxed. You'll get more done than on a day when you have felt stressed, will you not? It's like that. It is getting on for 1 o'clock. Looks like this is going to be a multi-day teaching. A different teaching is planned for tomorrow on refuge. I will see to scheduling the rest of the 6 Paramitas and getting that up on the calendar, and we'll see when it is. For now, you guys get homework. Practice generosity and morality. I'm going to talk a little bit about patience because I want you to practice those 3 until we come back and do the next 3. Patience of body is being able to wait. Patience of speech is an attitude of not needing to be heard. Patience of mind is simply not stressing out when things don't happen the way you expect. This is outer. Inner. Patience of body is being able to accept stillness. Inner patience of speech is being able to be silent. Inner patience of mind is to rest in the moment as it is, rather than trying to get to the moment you want. Secret patience of body is the stillness inherent in all movement. Secret patience of speech is the way the thoughts arise in emptiness as emptiness. Secret patience of mind is the union of samsara and nirvana. Are there questions on patience before we complete? Let's see.
Not on patience.
Give me 1 or 2 general questions.
Well, one interesting general question had to do with someone who said they had a brain condition that made it very hard for them to remember the teachings well, and was wanting to know if it was okay for them to remember what they could and rely very heavily on the invisible transmission, whatever that is. Does that go into the cells or somewhere else in the consciousness where the brain condition can't mess with it, is the question.
Somewhere else, not into the cells. Can you remember the 3 words, generosity, morality, and patience? practice them. That's your take home if you can't remember. Remember to be generous to others and to yourself. Remember to be generous in your deeds, your speech, and your words, and your thoughts. Remember to seek to create gewa with your body, speech, and mind, and spread it as broadly as you can, while refraining from digpa as much as possible, without an expectation of being perfect. It is patience, zopa, which allows you to not expect perfection. To be patient with yourself and others and your circumstances, which are always changing. I don't expect you to remember all the words. But as you practice this, it will go in deeper and become interwoven in the karmic patterns which make up your mind stream that flows through time. This is what is important. Nge wandi Nyur du dao Che che Sala Go Pashu. So be it. If any of you wish to practice generosity of the body by merging your practice with one of our yogis, or looking after, helping, assisting a student or an old person among the Tibetan refugees in Sopema, please send me an email and I will help you make the arrangements. $20 to $25 a month, about $250 to $300 a year is what it takes to keep someone in retreat, to assist a child in school or an old person with buying their meds and having groceries. If you're interested, send me an email. If you simply wish to offer generosity to me as a result of the teachings, which is traditional but not required. The teachings have no price and they are freely given. It'll come back eventually, whatever energy is put out, whatever time is put out. No hoarding. There's a PayPal button on the webpage. And for Refuge tomorrow, I will see y'all. The way we're going to do that is we have a small group which will be taking refuge and attending the ceremony, and open to everyone a teaching on what this means. What refuge is. So you are all welcome to that, and when that ends, the YouTube and the Facebook will shut off, and the small group for the ceremony will continue on Zoom. So I'll see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. my time. At this same time, whatever time it was for you. Bye. And sorry about the tech stuff.